Moving right along here, because yes, we want to keep you on schedule for lunch and of course the award show later. I feel like there's some weird feedback. I'm going to step over here. We are now going to keep moving on with our next session, which I am super excited about this one, as artificial intelligence continues to be a very hot and trendy subject in, gosh, so many different industries. We are going to hear next a panel discussion on artificial intelligence versus experts. Who will win the battle? This panel discussion will be an exploration of the potential of AI in the health sector and whether artificial intelligence is able to match up against human experts. Of course, I'm sure all of you in the industry, I know even me not in the industry, I've heard, oh, artificial intelligence is how much is it going to be taking over in doctors' offices and mental health clinics. So this is going to be really insightful and interesting. Now, we are going to start with our session's moderator, Dr. David H. Nguyen. Hopefully I said that right. Apologies if I didn't. CEO of Brainscanology, Inc. Please welcome him with a huge round of applause to stage.
All right, wonderful. Thank you for being here. The EV staff tells me that for Q&A, if you don't speak into the mic, the people on YouTube cannot hear you. So if you want to ask questions, please step up to the mic, and I'll let you know near the end when we reach Q&A so you can start lining up, okay? All right, so let me introduce our panelists. So I'll take, let me introduce them one by one. Okay, because one of them is getting coffee. I'm not sure if he's back yet. All right, so first, let me introduce LaMont Leavitt, CEO of innoviHealth. So LaMont has gained extensive experience over 35 years as an information management specialist and computer technologist. In 2021, he was invited to be a member of the Forbes Business Council. He has received many awards over the years, including the President's Award and Employee of the Year Award while he was at Novell. And since 2008, he began to focus on healthcare industry, bringing 6 products from innoviHealth to market. These dynamic web-based products will continue to roll out new features and information, thereby simplifying and facilitating the services of coding, reimbursement in the healthcare industry. Okay, thank you, Lamont. All right, next we have Eydis Lima. She is CEO and co-founder of Curiva. So Eydis is an engineer turned entrepreneur. She seeks to innovate solutions for women in the area of gynecologic oncology. She has more than 3 years of experience in the field of entrepreneurial business development and altogether 9 years of experience in technical space of life sciences. Her previous research work took place at Yale on an ovarian cancer therapeutic called Cantrixil, which is now in phase 2 clinical trials in Australia and the US. So she's developed nanoparticle technology for detecting micrometastases in ovarian cancer. Currently, she is focused on technology and business development for a patent-pending technology she invented called DiaPatch. DiaPatch is a wearable patch for detection of cervical cancer. Her prior research inspired her to develop non-invasive tools for women suffering from gynecologic oncology. Lima has a Master's of Science in Entrepreneurship from the University of Notre Dame and a Bachelor's of Science in Chemical Engineering at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. And next is Vinicio. So Vinicio Vargas is CEO and co-founder of Ainnova Tech, or InnovaTech. Tech. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. He is a serial technology entrepreneur, a master in digital transformation, a master of business development. So Ainnova Tech is a company that develops solutions based on AI for early detection of diseases such as diabetic retinopathy or cardiovascular risk. Recognized and rewarded internationally, Ainnova Tech has allied with important hospitals and globally renowned medical device companies. Vinicio's purpose is to positively impact the world through accessible and accurate solutions that save lives and improve people's life expectancy and quality of life. He wants to leave a better world for his children and future generations. He is passionate about breaking the status quo of the health sector. Okay, Vinicio, come on stage whenever you're ready. I know. Okay. All right, so I have a number of questions that I'll be asking each of the panelists. And to begin, I'd like to throw this question out. So, and feel free to answer, you can raise your hand and pick the order in which you want to answer. First question is, in what ways will AI transform healthcare?
Sure.
Yeah, you first. I'll take it second.
Okay, sounds good. So I think it's going to transform healthcare. It's really exciting, the amount of data that scientists and engineers and coders already develop on a weekly basis. It's in the numbers of terabytes. And so we're just not processing that quickly enough. And I think that's where the beauty of artificial intelligence really lies now as an exponential opportunity, and in the future in real life applications. So I am not an AI expert, but at Curiva we are working to integrate artificial intelligence in our DF hatch. And what we have found so far is that we're pretty good at feedback mechanisms, which means that we're good at telling or calibrating and programming, for example, our patch. Tell it, this is the input, recognize our assay, and then give us the output, and that's the result. We're not really good yet at the actual deep learning. Like, would that patch tell us in real-time monitoring in a cervical cancer patient or an ovarian cancer stage 3 patient how that cancer is progressing? And then at what point do we interfere and either operate or treat or both?
Yeah, I would just add, from a diagnostic standpoint, it's really going to aid diagnosis. When you're looking at any kind of a tumor, a radiologist, they can see tumors, but the great thing about AI is there's an unlimited set of data they can look at, and you can see beyond the tumor. You can see patterns, and it may even help radiologists as they make decisions. So, in our world, I can tell you, as I've worked with a variety of vendors in the medical coding and billing space and trying to figure out all the dynamics there. It's neat to see a lot of different AI vendors coming at it from different angles. Some have nailed maybe a specialty or two really well versus another, but everyone's going down this path. And the one thing that I would caution you about when you go to a convention and you see everyone on their booth saying, we have AI, we have AI, we have AI, that word is used very loosely. People have AI elements. They may do a little bit, but that marketing bullet, you really got to dig down into the weeds as to what they're doing to see how much AI they really have.
Yeah.
I'll add that.
Yeah, I think we are in a real transformation. This change will be progressive. Right now it's slow, but will be progressive, and eventually will be exponential. According to World Health Organization, 90% of the healthcare spending is in attack diseases. But in 2025, the 90% of the healthcare spending will be on digital health and digital diagnostics. Are the healthcare system prepared? Doesn't matter, because the patient will lead this way, will lead the path, and the healthcare system will need to adapt to their new needs. I think the change will be in 5 points. Possibly could be prevention, detection, timely care, monitoring, and personalized medicine. For example, in our company, Ainnova Tech, we create solutions for early detection of diseases through retinal imaging. Right now, we detect diabetic retinopathy and other diseases through retinal imaging. But right now, we have a partnership with Boston Scientific, and we are detecting cardiovascular risk through the retinal imaging. We are working also in early detection of Alzheimer's through the retinal imaging. And this is really powerful because it's not for the specialists. If not in front of the first lines of healthcare, and this make it accessible and massive. And I think this will be the new trend in all the new developments.
Well, thank you. A lot to think about, I think, in light of what the previous speaker was talking about too, the data fluency and the problems there. Okay, so the next question is, what are the challenges that AI must overcome today if it wants to replace humans in the future, right? So what does it need to overcome today?
I can lead up. So I think the first thing is trust. When you first hear about AI, people have to warm up to the idea. There's leaders, and there's mainstream, and then there's the laggers. And so you've got to deal with that trust factor. Second of all, as the previous speaker mentioned, data silos are everywhere. Everyone wants to own their data. They want to license their data. We have a product that we license data from dozens of different vendors, bringing it all into one big search engine to help with the coding and billing. Well, that's all great, but all the vendors, they want a part of that or a piece of that action. So to pull that off, there's a lot of work. And then some vendors don't really want to share their data. And so that, you know, as he mentioned before, it's going to take some time, and it's gradual, and it won't happen overnight. Those are the two biggest hurdles I see, is access to the information and all the data silos willing to share that, and then there's the cost, that they want a piece of the action.
Definitely. So data sharing and data integration. Yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
Yeah, data integration is very, very important. But I think, first of all, we are not looking to replace doctors. On the contrary, I think the doctors will be very useful and very necessary in all this change of era, because when the data science, when the science advances further and the data increases, and all this, we have solutions with the current knowledge, but in the future, we will need to be changing this data, changing this new knowledge, validate it again, because we need validated data by medical resources. But in the future, the current knowledge will change for the future knowledge. This will be, for me, the main challenge.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. So Vinicio, the technical term, what he's talking about is ground truth, right? So AI is trained on ground truth. Who is healthy? Who has stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3? And that's going to be constantly changing. So that's what he means when he said AI has to constantly be validated. So that's going to take a long time before it works for a lot of people, and therefore it's going to be a long time before it probably replaces people, right? So, Eydis, did you have a comment on this question?
Yeah, I like to answer this question with additional questions. I'm the rookie in the room here, and I'm a first-time founder and entrepreneur, and I actually ran it by some of our team members and some of our board members saying, hey, I'm coming to this panel. What are questions that, you know, like keep us up at night when we're innovating and ideating in lab, and eventually when we get to do our pilot clinical trials. So I have listed them here, and I'll go down the line. I think from importance, like highest priority is basically how do we create synergy between the startups innovating in this space or mid-sized companies and physicians plus their health systems or their private or public practices, right? What's that synergy? Breaking down those silos, and then on top of that, the efficiency, which is what the AI in the future is really meant to be doing, to capture that human error that we're missing today. So the next question is to, going back to ethics, how do we make sure that ethically we do this in an ethical and regulated manner, that the protection of that patient's data is guaranteed every step of the way. And then the last one I have here, I'm going to also drop some names for you. Well, before this one, my team, this is one of the biggest questions that we work hard day and night on, is really how do we stimulate multiple protein interactions to then diagnose and treat more readily. So our patch is supposed to transform how, instead of getting a pap smear or a colposcopy, getting results in 2 weeks or perhaps even a month, you get it that same day. And we cannot do that without understanding how our assay can be digitized. And then the last one, which I really hope like gets all of you in the room excited because I'm a podcast and book nerd, so I follow everybody. But I asked the team and they said, well, why don't we have our own brains, but why don't we look at the best and brilliant brains in this industry right now? So we follow Lex Freeman, Demi Asavis with DeepMind, and his COO, Lila Ibrahim, whom, by the way, is a great social impact entrepreneur as well. And Bob Langer, who's considered the Edison of medicine. One of my personal favorites is David Sinclair. And then lastly, Peter Diamandis. Him and Tony Robbins are really trying to change the way in which the way we do wellness and health long-term just creates better outcomes for everybody and gives longevity.
All right, wonderful, thank you. Yeah, to follow up on the question she asked, I think one particular I want to highlight, the ethics, right, of AI. And one of the problems of getting AI to replace humans, whether psychiatrists, psychologists, radiologists, right, whatnot, pathologists, right, these are the fields that are most afraid, at least in my experience of talking to my colleagues in these fields, of being replaced. And data bias, particularly racial bias and gender bias, are major problems in data, right, science, right? And the problem, the issue isn't how good our algorithms are, right? It's the data that we train on, right? Most archive data is from North American white males. So that means if you're not male, not North American, not white, it's not gonna be accurate for you, right? And there's plenty of data showing from different races, like in dementia, in Latinx or Latinos, they get dementia on average 8 years sooner, right, than their non-Hispanic white counterparts. And also, everyone's favorite, most popular Alzheimer's risk factor, ApoE4, it only predicts risk if you're non-Hispanic white. It doesn't work if you're Latino or Latinx, right? So all these data we have now that works in published papers, bringing that to market on a global or even a national scale, that's a major challenge. That's gonna take a long time. So for my colleagues who think you're about to replace anytime soon, it's not gonna happen. All right, so the next question I'm gonna throw out to our panel is that, how will AI change the job landscape in healthcare?
I would say anything that AI can either learn or be taught is in jeopardy. And it's just a matter of time. And so the simpler the task, the least decisions to make, those are the things that are being done first. We've seen that in assembly lines today, where robotic and assembly line of a car is being done. So that's the first thing that will transition. And then, yeah, I would say, leave it at that.
Sure.
Yeah, I think the change will be more radical every day, but we will not replace persons. First of all, with all this happening, if you go to your house and have a monitor give signals and analyze this data, this information to find what is your best drug or your best treatment, or if you have a risk to have a myocardial incident, for example. All this information, with all this happening, is obviously some things will change. But we need to understand AI as a new resource to make the work easy with the patient at the center. Understanding this, first of all. The doctors need to validate not only all this data, if not the new developments, the future developments. And I think if the physicians, if the doctors understand AI as a new resource to make his job accurate and better, we will have two new types of doctors. uh, doctors that understand this and adapt to this and take advantage of it, and the doctors that will be retired. Simple.
Yeah, so it sounds like what you're saying is that AI will definitely increase efficiency in sort of tasks that can be simply taught. But that, don't you think, but that's been happening long before AI showed up, don't you think, in terms of computers, right, things like that. And so in a way, it's nothing new. It's just the AI, the hype, right? It's a lot of, a lot of promising right now, huffing and puffing, and it scares a lot of people. And it definitely will increase efficiency in a lot of tasks, but in terms of replacing at least the diagnostic and treatment decision makers, that's probably more distant in the future. So yeah, LaMont, could you comment on, since your company works on, billing and things like that, I mean, that's efficiency right there, right? I mean, I just from my own parents, their geriatric needs, my own medical needs, paperwork, insurance, that's just, phone tagging. That's just such a hassle, right? So, I mean, that's something can be solved by AI.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of movement there from just being at the different conventions, seeing different companies coming out with different solutions, and a lot of different AI companies want to integrate into our products to create that right combination and mix. So definitely. The one challenge, as I talk to at least older people, you worry about AI is, at least with an aging demographic, will the AI make a different decision for me because I'm 85 instead of 60? And there's a fear of the machines making decisions that maybe isn't in my best interest. So whether that's real or not, that is a fear that I've in talking with people that they have.
Yeah,
that trust we talked about earlier.
Definitely. I mean, I'd say the fear is real because right now we know that a lot of papers are realizing that somehow the AI model is picking up race and gender, right, from images, and the doctors don't know why. In fact, just a few months ago, there was a big paper came out, and they just trained on X-rays and a bunch of different modalities, and the AI was able to pick out race, and they didn't know how it did that, right? And so they're afraid to deploy that model because, especially with techniques like deep learning, where it's really good at finding patterns, but it's not very good at explaining why, right? So, should you get this, potentially, dangerous chemotherapy simply because you have a mustache and the other person doesn't? You don't know, right? And so interpretability is a problem in AI, right? AI can tell us, which group is healthy, which group is not, but it doesn't tell us why. And so if it makes a wrong decision, if it makes a racist decision or a sexist decision, you can't fix it because you didn't know why he made that decision to begin with. So that goes back to trust.
Yeah,
right.
Trust, and then the other thing I'm looking forward to is the whole genome kind of potential. We're all different. We all need a different solution for our health. What is going to fix me may not fix you or anyone else in the room. But when we can get our health care to the point where there's a solution for you individually, then I think that's the altruistic we've arrived at true healthcare. So, world according to me.
Yeah, I think personalized medicine is the way to go. And you see it in oncology all the time. I mean, what is a tumor? It's uncontrollable growth of cells and enormous amount of mutations that change anytime there's different metabolic cellular pathways happening inside your body. So we need to find something that's going to outsmart those tumors, and it's not going to be without the bioinformatics and that genome and the people that can understand both coding machines and then humans and sorry, I'm being a biased entrepreneur here, the siloed doctors and health systems. We need that opening up more so that then it's a perfect tool, male, female mix.
Yeah, if you understand that AI is a resource to make your job better, you can understand that this can reduce the waiting list, make an alert at the time. It's not to change the traditional diagnostics for a new. It's have information on time to save lives, to increase the quality of lives. And this is very, very important, understand. because it's obviously the doctors have fear because they are thinking are getting are going these employees going to be replaced, but it's not a reality. This will not happen even 100 years or later. But right now, the objective is make the doctors make their jobs more easy, more accurate, but mainly save lives.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. All right, and so I guess since we're on the topic of, as you guys mentioned, genetics and bioinformatics, and that is definitely necessary for precision medicine. That is, personalized treatments. But on this topic, and I talk about this topic often, actually, in terms of AI replacing experts and genetics. And I think it's important to point out that even though there are genetic factors that, based on each race, that affects how a disease manifests, right? That should not be interpreted as genetics being able to tell us about the, potential of an entire race of people, right? Genetics has been abused a lot in the past for discriminatory reasons, and it's a very important topic for understanding how precision medicine is going to work, how AI is going to work, but it should not be interpreted as deeming the value of an entire race of people, right? That's just incorrect, because we know from twin studies, as mentioned by a panelist earlier on, your environment affects your genes a lot, right? We know that from people who, as earlier in the panel, Raj talked about how people in India didn't have allergies, right? But people in Indians and Americans have peanut allergies, right? What's the difference, right? It's the food we eat, it's the gut microbiome, right? All these things that affect genetics, right? So anyways, issues of racism are too complex for genetics to make any meaningful conclusions to. Okay, I just want to clarify that, because that's a often misconception from these talks about the importance of genetics in healthcare. All right, and so the last question I'm going to throw out here is, will AI replace doctors, radiologists, and pathologists in the future, right? If so, when?
Well, I've been reading a book. One of the books I've been reading recently is The World's Changing Faster Than You Think. Really good read. There's a section there on health, but it does talk about that as that's where the world would be going. This is overly simplified, but when you go into Lowe's, it used to be I had 10 cashiers to help me out. Now I've got eight stalls I can go into, and there's one person watching if someone can't check out themselves. I think what I would expect to see is something similar to that, where maybe you have a surgeon is watching several surgeries happen to make sure he's going okay, and if something gets out of line, then they can watch more. That is what people are suggesting is a reality down the road in the future. Whether that's 5 years or 50, I'm not sure yet, but all sources I've read point to it's coming faster than we think.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's see. Well, my view is a little different. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I think not in our lifetime, and maybe that's why I'm the rookie in this panel. I need to be more informed. At least in the diagnoses, surgical and then therapeutic treatment of oncology, that's going to be really challenging. That'll be like when Elon makes it to Mars. Okay, maybe we'll get there too. But I do think that we're making a lot of pushes that are going to integrate AI to get there. And as I said, because I'm new in this field, I'm eager to learn. I'm actually reading right now. I mentioned some folks before, but love the book referencing. So I'm reading Life Force by Peter Diamandis and Tony Robbins. That's phenomenal. That one's in English. And I'm reading Lifespan by David Sinclair, who's brilliant. His view is like yours. Why aren't scientists and engineers using AI like now? And I think that that's true. The bottleneck is how quickly can we actually process and educate that data to do the things and the programming, not the outcomes. It's different, right? That we want it to do. And then I have two on my book list, which I'm eager to tap into, and I learned about them doing a little bit of research for this panel. And one is Machines Who Think by Pamela McCorduck. And it's actually sort of like the dot-com era. It's a book that was written in the 70s. And she was at Stanford around all of these really interesting data scientists and computer scientists, et cetera. And they're friends of her husband or of her, but she's just an author, a writer. So someone said, why don't you write like the history of AI? That should be, or what we think artificial intelligence is now in the 70s. So she documents that in that book, and it's just, I think it's like super thrilling because it's like how we invented silicon, or discovered it, I should say, and then the microchip happened, and then here we go, we have Steve Jobs and Apple, et cetera. And then the last one is a bit more on that academic and elect side, but I think it's exactly what we need in this field. It's a highly interdisciplinary person. Her name is Rosalind Picard. She's at MIT, and she wrote Effective Computing. It's a bit dated, I think around 95. But she coined basically the idea that with artificial intelligence, it's not just about creating the efficiencies and getting the results that we want to see or improving and saving lives. It's actually about how that artificial intelligence, whether it's a patch that's worn on the pelvic area for Curiva, for example, or radiologists looking at lungs to sense for COVID, et cetera. She proposes that we have to think of artificial intelligence as having an emotional piece as well, because that's the area that it's the, blanking out on the name, it's the silver lining, right? That can go the right way, or it could go the very wrong way. And so when I want to learn more and read this book now because I think it's just gonna click so many gears and create a lot of really exciting discussions in our team. And to finalize here, I just want to put a little plug out there for Curiva. So with Curiva, we're working on commercializing the patch, which is a wearable diagnostics patch. One wears it on the pelvic lower region, and you're able to get results for cervical cancer as a primary area of indication, eventually other gynecologic oncology malignancies. This can be done same day in the patient's office. We might have to have coffee because we're still debating if this should be prescribed, if we're going to test it out in clinical trials first. Of course, that has to happen, but I mean, sell it at cancer centers to obtain data. And then lastly, like, can they just be prescribed or utilized in the doctor's office instead of getting a colposcopy done or getting the invasive pap smear, which I'm sure no woman in this room or men that has a wife or daughters, agree that is completely, invasive and outdated. It's been more than over 70 years since Dr. Papanikolaou invented, or it's a procedure, so he created it, the swab for cervical cancer detection.
Yeah, I think in all change vera, we can have pain and probably resistance. But for example, right now the optometrists or ophthalmologists take the fundus eye test. It's a simple retina image. It's like a photography, with a special lamp. But all this depends of this light or the of if the patient is moving or not, and the quality of images could vary, could change depend of the doctor. For example, right now we are almost in the final product. Is we change this because it's like a virtual reality lens, and you put on there, and the doctor is at your side, but it's an automatic. It's taking the images automatically with a high resolution. But the doctor is not substituted with this. It's not changing with this. It's only the way to have this information. And I think this will be the trend, is be the work more efficient, have on-time information, have quality information, process the data of the better way. But I don't see this possibility in the long term. I think the doctors will be part of this new feature, and the AI will be only a very good, a very essential resource. And the doctors need to be updated with this. But it's simple. It's not a competition.
Okay, well, now that we reached the last 5 minutes, I want to give time for Q&A. So if you have questions, please line up in front of the mic so that people on YouTube can hear you too. So to summarize, I think the question, the general answer, the consensus on the panel in terms of will AI replace human doctors, it's the consensus is that it's going to take time. Things are happening rapidly. But on some things, we'll see in the coming decades, major things, probably not in our lifetime. At least my own plug, I think it's 500 years, just because I'm a molecular cell biologist before I was a computational biologist. And so anyways, we can talk about that later. But yeah, question.
I'm really curious about physician adoption of artificial intelligence. My background is in clinical nursing, mostly perioperative services and nursing informatics. And I've seen a lot of advances in artificial intelligence related to decreasing clinical variances in workflow and definitely coding and billing. However, it's very hard to have a conversation with physicians about giving them data for improvement, because they interpret that as you're telling me I'm doing something wrong. And a perfect example of that is with the invent of robotic total knee replacement machines. They're a marketing, they work. I'm a very big proponent of them, but physicians see them as a marketing ploy, because I've been doing my total knees the same way every time for the last 20 years, and this machine can't tell me how to do it better, even though it can't, but that's a whole different story. So I think it's going to be a really long time, and I'm interested in your feedback. The physicians who have been in the market for 20 to 25 years don't want somebody to use data to tell them how to do something better, because they think they're already doing it well. So it's getting to those, the younger generation who understands that data can improve outcomes. So how do you work with the generational gap that you have now and to improve these outcomes now?
That's a great question. I have a son that works for a financial firm in Texas, and all the doctors he works with think they're experts at managing their finances, but they think they're an expert at everything they do, right? So that is a challenge. My feeling is that it may take a generation. It may take 25 years to have the next generation. I'm not saying they're all that way, I'm generalizing, but it's challenging when they're not open to new ideas. And this is how I've always done it. I don't need to change. I don't care that there's a new government mandate. How do you fix an attitude? I don't know. That's been my experience in working with some physicians that are maybe in their last 20 years of working.
Yeah, and sharing, I share your opinion. And adding to this, AI is not only in the future. Right now, AI is the best transfer knowledge way to pass this medical expertise to the new generations, because you can validate all this information, all this data. The doctors that have the knowledge can validate this data, retrain the models until the most accuracy, And these new generations can obtain this information through this expertise, but in a system or in a platform. I think AI is a better way to transfer this knowledge right now.
Wonderful. Next question.
Sure. Hi, guys. So I want to relate the question that the previous woman just asked to some of the comments you've made before. So I want to hear her concerns and kind of address that, and then relate to the next speaker panel that's talking about interoperability. So I'm an engineer and integrative medicine practitioner, so I'm coming from the younger generation analytical tech nerd model. So I embrace data science. And so I wanted to ask you on this topic of, so recently some professors at the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard announced a new computational method where they identify spatial markers, in this case for Alzheimer's disease, progression in an animal model. And so it's called STACY, and they analyze gene expression, cell nuclear structure, and cell location in tissues all at the same time. So they basically braided together 3 different visualizations of data. And they're using this model to learn about Alzheimer's disease. And so I hope that it's trivial and obvious why this relates to psychiatry and mental health, because we can track other indicators. But what I'm saying is that we're beginning to integrate these different data modalities. And so related to the previous woman's questions, where we're dealing with sort of a physician arrogance or attitude of I think that the results can speak for themselves of when we compare outcomes of one physician versus data-driven outcomes. We can make decisions in that, but from an interoperability perspective and not making anyone wrong, how do you see, do you have other examples, or just can we get us on the train of the topics of how is this using multiple models and locational data, how can we bridge the gap towards holistic patient care where we get multiple physicians talking to each other through this, solving the interoperability problem? So I just want to bring that up and invite you to speak on anything related to that.
Okay, we have 60 seconds. Go ahead.
Sure. I'll do really quick. I've been long-winded this whole time. Sure. I think that paper was definitely with David Sinclair's in there. And he has a startup also based around this concept. It's all about including people in the conversation that have diverse backgrounds, and but more importantly, hungry and varied, but one common goal, and then that's when that magic happens. So I'm here today with Curiva because I landed in a Yale University lab that was just filled with that level of interdisciplinary happening daily, weekly, etc. So that's all we need. Just really highly energetic people, wise. So if we're talking about doctors that are about to retire, don't challenge them because this is new. Ask respectfully, hey, you have all these years of experience. What did you do right, or what did you do wrong, and how do we do it better? And just humbling upon that, I think, is how we can change everything. If it only were that simple.
The thing I want to arrive at is the patient in the end. I want to decide my health. I want to know, okay, I have cancer. This is my chemotherapy option. This is my holistic option. And this is new clinical trials that are going on. And I want to decide for myself what level of risk I want to go on. And I hope we as healthcare in this space can get to that point where the AI isn't leading us down a path that an organization thinks that we should believe. But we make good decisions based on all the data that's there. That's where I think AI needs to take us in the end. So we can all decide for ourselves what's right for us.
Definitely. Thank you. Vinicio.
Yeah, adding to this, multidisciplinary things are very important in this because, for example, what I mentioned before, we can detect different diseases in the retina, but the ophthalmologist can say if if you have cardiovascular risk, because they are specialists in the retina, but not in the heart. But when you when you have on the team one cardiologist, one ophthalmologist, even one neurologist, depending on the disease, and you can integrate this with the artificial intelligence experts and data scientists. You can analyze different options because ophthalmologists don't have the knowledge that the cardiologists have, but cardiologists can say nothing about the retina. But when you validate this information, validate the next point, and you can say, okay, I make the Holter test, I make the calcium score, and right, this patient have cardiovascular risk. And you can validate this, connect the points, and you can have right solutions. This is my point.
All right, thank you. And that's all the time we have. Thank you to all our panelists, and thank you for the great questions.
Thank you.